Tahu tak? Tahu tak pasal nak buat apa sana tu? Tahu tak? Mana siapa nak?
Nak buat apa dah? Kenal dah Cobi. Si Amirul tu. Amirul pula. Si Sarah. Kahwin dengan bangla yang jaga supermarket tu.
Malu.
Cikgu tak tahu kenapa.
Malu sangat lah. Pasal cok bangla tak tahu lah. Ya, Cobi. Besar. Hai, Raya.
Tak tahu lah. Tapi tengok cerita.
Hello? Tangkap pasal. Bila. Okey. Cek minor. Okey. Hobi lagi.
As a Mami Jarum, I'm obsessed with gold. But the inflation is so bad, so I cannot buy gold alone, no. As a Mami. Back in 1997, during the ASEAN financial crisis, Malaysia faced one of its tough recession. The ringgit weakened, the economy contracted, and gold was far from the same level it is as today. It was cheaper, overdone, and underbuilt. Fast forward nearly 3 decades to 2026, inflation reached the financial landscape. Price rise, purchasing power falls, and suddenly, the gold shines again, not just a commodity, but as a store of value. In this video, we will measure how Malaysia consumer inflation rate impact gold prices and ask a critical question: is gold truly a strong hedge against inflation in Malaysia economy?
Patutlah lah ni. Emas makin mahal.
Bila lama aku nak bertambah ni?
Semua ni salah inflasi.
So, we're going to explain how inflation is linked to gold prices from an economic perspective. Okay, in economics, gold is usually seen as a store of value. When inflation goes up, the purchasing power decreases, meaning people can buy less than before. Because of that, people don't really like holding cash during high inflation. Instead, they look for assets that can protect their wealth, and gold is one of the options. Since gold has limited supply and can't be printed like money, higher inflation often leads to higher demand for gold, which pushes gold. Inflation creates uncertainty in the economy. Demand for safe assets like gold usually increases. As demand for gold rises, its price in the market also tends to increase. This is why inflation is expected to have a positive relationship with gold prices.
Another thing is interest rates. When inflation increases faster than interest rates, real interest rates become very low or sometimes even negative. In that situation, saving money or investing in financial assets become less attractive. So investors tend to shift their money into gold, even though gold doesn't give interest because it helps them maintain the value of their wealth. That's why in our study, we're examining whether changes in inflation are statistically related to changes in gold prices in Malaysia. In the next part, we'll look at whether the result from our data actually support this theory.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
So what we're looking for right now, this model examines the relationship between inflation and changes in gold prices. We have two variables which are independent gold prices and dependent inflation rate. As we all know, beta 0 is the intercept, beta 1 is to measure the effect of inflation, while U is for the error term.
We chose linear model because both variables in our study, which are gold price changes and the inflation rate, are measured in their original levels. No logarithmic transformation is applied to either variable, making the linear specification the most appropriate choice. This model allows us to observe a direct and proportional relationship between inflation and changes in gold prices. Specifically, the coefficient beta 1 can be interpreted as the change in gold price associated with 1 unit increase in inflation. Therefore, the linear model provides a simple and clear interpretation that is suitable for our data and research objectives.
Now, we use Excel and EUs to help us to compute the data. The data we use are from dotted amounts for annual gold prices and DOSM for Malaysia's CPI.
This is the steps taken. First, we collected annual data on gold prices from dotted amounts and CPI data from Department of Statistics Malaysia. These sources were selected due to the reliability. Next, we used Microsoft Excel to process raw data. We calculated the annual changes in gold prices and the inflation rate from CPI data to ensure consistency between the variables. After that, we specified a simple linear regression model as gold price change equals to beta 0 plus beta 1 times inflation rate plus U, where gold price is the dependent variable and the inflation rate is the independent variable. We then estimated the model using the ordinary least square OLS method in eViews to obtain the coefficient estimate and test statistics. Finally, we interpreted the estimated coefficient and evaluate the model performance using R-square and F statistic to assess the explanatory power and overall significance of the regression.
Based on the correlation analysis, the correlation coefficient between inflation rate and change in gold price is minus 0.2628. This shows a weak negative relationship between the two variables. In general, when inflation increases, changes in gold prices tend to move in the opposite direction. However, the relationship is weak. Here, we also include the descriptive statistic as a reference to other data, such as the mean, median, and overall distribution of the variables. Looking at the regression results, the coefficient for inflation rate is minus 2.8860. This means that a 1 percentage point increase in inflation is associated with an average decrease of 2.886 units in gold price changes. Assuming other factors remain constant, the negative sign shows an inverse relationship where higher inflation is linked to lower changes in gold prices during the period studied. For the R-squared value, for this model is 0.0691 or 6.9%. This means that inflation rate explains only a very small portion of the variation in gold price changes. In other words, most fluctuations in gold prices are influenced by other economic factors such as global demand, exchange rates, or market uncertainty, rather than inflation alone. Based on the output eViews, the t-statistic for the inflation rate is minus 0.9820. When we compare this value with the critical t-value of 2.160 at the 5% significant level, the absolute t-value is smaller. Therefore, we do not reject the null hypothesis. This suggests that inflation rate does not have a statistically significant impact on changes in gold prices. This result is also supported by the p-value, which is 0.3440. Since the p-value is greater than 0.05, the relationship is not statistically significant. Hence, there is insufficient evidence to conclude that inflation rate significantly affects changes in gold prices in Malaysia over the study period.
Next, we conducted the Durbin-Watson test to check for first-order serial correlation, ensuring our model satisfies the OLS assumption of independent error terms. First of all, given the null hypothesis of no positive serial correlation and a one-sided alternative hypothesis. Next, we find our rho, which we compute in the formula and get negative 0.005. Since this is nearly zero, it provides early evidence that our residuals are independent. To confirm this formally, we compared our Durbin-Watson statistics of 2.01 against the critical values. With one independent variable, which k equals to 1 and 15 observations, n equals to 15, our lower bound of the critical value is 1.08 and the upper bound of 1.36. Hence, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. This confirms that our model does not suffer from serial correlation, making our t-statistics and p-values reliable for our final analysis.
Now, you might be asking if theory says gold is a hedge.
why did our EViews model show a negative relationship? Hence, we have three explanations. First, the opportunity cost. During inflation, rising interest rates make cash more attractive than gold. Second, omitted variables. Our simple model focuses only on inflation. As discussed in Student Month Chapter 6, by not including the USD exchange rate, our model provides a partial picture. Thirdly, short-term noise. While the Fisher effect holds over decades, the World Bank's 2021 data shows that extreme shocks can disrupt traditional correlations. Besides that, the line and symbol graph also shows how inflation rate and changes in gold prices move over time. Overall, the two lines do not move in the same direction consistently. This indicates that the relationship between inflation and changes in gold prices is weak, which supports our earlier statistical results.
Weh, Sofia, anak dua cinta tu.
Hebat tu.
Si Sarah tu mengadu tak nikah.
Ya kau.
Betul, bingung.
Abang main hamba.
By looking at Malaysian inflation rate and gold price, we can better understand whether gold truly works as a hedge against inflation. This question matters not just for us, but for anyone concerned about protecting value in uncertain times.
All from us. Thank you.